Yes, here we are for the final time in 2023 and the penultimate time this regular season on Football Friday presented by Wolf Spreads. Guys, as we start week 17, 24 teams still have hope, and what a football weekend we have here. But guys, hopefully you all are doing well and you all had a great holiday.
Johnny.
Some of us did, maybe.
Sports-wise, yes.
Sports-wise, the Jets totally destroyed me, but that's a whole different issue for another day.
We'll get there.
We'll get into it in a minute.
Yeah, but before we do that, obviously, as Johnny said, presented by Wolf Spreads, are you looking to get involved in the action while rooting for your favorite team? Have you ever had a friendly debate on who can pick more games correctly? Does all this talk about parlays, lines, and over-unders make your head spin? And you want to learn more about the sports betting hoopla? Gamble with us and check out Wolf Spreads. Guys, I think we've enjoyed Wolf Spreads so far this season, right? I think
Definitely.
especially if you're a beginning gambler, you get to learn a lot more, and hopefully you get into it. We're running a sports betting competition completely free on the Wolf Spreads app. Here's how it works. Everybody gets $2,000 fantasy dollars. That's fake money to bet on the NFL games with whoever can profit most with their 2K bankroll wins. And if you're not an NFL fan, don't worry. Wolf Spreads has competitions available for the NBA, MLB, NHL, and college football and basketball. Put fantasy dollars on the over-under, the money line, or the spreads, competing for bragging rights with your fellow players while having additional fun watching sports and not risking losing your house in the process. Well, if you're betting the Jets, you might lose your house. Wolf Spreads, sports betting for friends who love the action. All right, let's get into the action.
Yeah, well, you also might lose your mind if you're betting on the Jets.
Well, I talk about me. We all spent $1,000 fantasy dollars last week. I've had great weeks. I've had bad weeks. Last week was not a good week, but neither was my week last week here in our point spread system, guys. And as we get started here in week 17, Tom and I are both tied with 299 points, but with our first tiebreaker going by record, technically Tom actually is in the lead right now because he's up by 3 games over me in that regard. Nick D has 289 points. Zan has 284, Ben Kruse with 282, Nick has 281, and Paul has 278. So it's still very, very tight with 2 weeks to go here. And last week, I'll just say, and I'll own up to it, I started out 2-0. I ended up 3-13 against the spread for 11 points. But that was last week.
Ouch.
You know what? I've had great weeks this year, and last week was a bad week. No excuse. But you know what? We turn the page, and we try and redeem ourselves this week with another full slate of games starting on Thursday, one game Saturday, and then the rest of the slate coming up on Sunday. But before we get to game number 1, right out of the gate, let's go to Tom with our first video of week 17, that is. So, Tom,
17.
Nick, take it away.
Well, before we go to the video, I'm pissed off. I'm just going to leave it at that. Watch the first video.
I had a great week.
Ho, ho, ho. Ho, ho, ho. You got coal in your stocking.
Yes, this is not an April Fool's joke when the Jets jump out to a 17-0 lead, and I'm seeing stuff from Nick that he's livid that the Jets are up 17-0.
Who expected them to be up 17-0?
Well, I had them winning, but unfortunately they didn't cover, and the game went over to start. So it was a loss all the way around. I know Nick had the Commanders as his bench lock, and that did not work out. They covered, but they did not win, so that bench lock didn't work. Well, Nick, let's turn the corner here. New week, new chance to redeem yourself. One more time this season. It's an Al Michaels, Kirk Herbstreit, and Kaylee Hartung special on Amazon Prime Video as Trevor Siemian and your New York Jets head to Cleveland Browns Stadium to take on Joe Flacco and the Browns. And those Browns are 7.5-point home favorites.
By the way, just so everybody knows, new for this week, 2 minutes on the clock, which I just started now. Everyone has 2 minutes to get through their explanation, and then they have another minute to determine what they're going to do. I think that was a fluke last week. The Commanders are just a terrible team in every way, shape, or form. They benched Sam Howell this week for Jacob. I'm thinking wrong team. No, I am. They bench Howell for Reset. So that shows you how bad the team actually is. The Jets were up 17-0. It's not going to happen again. I think that was a little bit lucky. Again, you're hearing all the nonsense around Aaron Rodgers and And now he's coming out and saying, I didn't ask for me to be activated on the roster. Who did that? I don't know who put me on the roster. I'm going to make this simple even before the time runs out. Browns cover. Not my lock, but Browns cover.
Good. He learned his lesson, not going that well again. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Browns on this one too. They've been rolling with Joe Flacco. It's honestly been pretty amazing the way that he's been able to turn things around and kind of keep the Browns afloat. With another great performance this past week, the Jets, that game was something else. I'll tell you what, they went up. Did not expect what was going to happen, but I don't think that they're going to end up bouncing back in this one. I think Cleveland's going to take it at -7.5. I like that number, so I'm going to roll with it.
Tom, what do you have here?
All right, I actually have to pause for 1 second because I almost forgot. This is our first playoff scenario. Already got a playoff scenario out of the gate.
Yeah, Tom's going to be very busy in that regard today.
Okay, listen up. So a Cleveland victory, a loss by both Houston and Indianapolis, or losses by any of Pittsburgh, Buffalo, or Jacksonville. Cleveland's in it, guys. One of those things happen. One of those 5 things happen. Cleveland's in it. That being said, listen, I feel like the Jets must have had some voodoo last week because for some reason it was the offense that was producing and the defense, this Super Bowl caliber defense that we keep on praising, all of a sudden just completely collapses.
Wait a minute. Did you say offense?
Yeah, offense. And it's the defense that nearly collapses. This uber talented, uber star-filled defense nearly blows a game to Ron Rivera, Sam Howell, and the Washington Commanders. Yeah, it's absolutely baffling. That being said, I don't think you can compare the Washington Commanders to the Cleveland Browns, especially that Cleveland Browns defense. These are 2 great defensive units. The problem here is I think the Browns, even without Watson, even without Chubb, they have been continuing to deliver. Joe Flacco looks great. They even looked great under Dorian Thompson. Amari Cooper definitely had the Christmas game of his life, although he is now questionable heading into later today's game. So at least of the time we're recording this. So that gives me a little trepidation from taking that 7.5 points. I was actually very tempted, Nick Morgasen, to make this my lock of the week. The problem here, the dreaded hook. That 0.5 point tells me I can't risk this. That 0.5 point makes me even question if I'm even going to take it, considering the fact that these are 2 good defensive units. That being said, I have a lot more faith in Cleveland than I do in the Jets. So I'm not going to use it in my lock. I will still take the money. And yeah, Cleveland rocks. It's going to the playoffs.
So Tom, you don't want to take that extra 0.5 point?
What do you mean? No, I said take the money.
You want to lay the extra? Okay, because I will take that extra 0.5 point here, and I'll tell you why I'm going to do this. There's no question that the better team, the better quarterback, the better coach, the better offense, and the better defense are all with the Browns. But when you have 2 good defenses dueling it out, I think laying more than a touchdown is a bit much. So I think this is 20-13 Browns. So I think the Browns win. I'm going to grab that extra 0.5 point, though, with the Jets here. I think when you have 2 good defenses, it's very tough for me to lay that extra 0.5 point here. So there's no question. I say the Browns win it, but I'll take the Jets here plus the points in a 20-13 game there in Cleveland.
I don't blame you. That 0.5 point scared me. I went in thinking it was going to be just -7.
Yeah, but I don't.
Well, it's the same number regardless, whether it's 7 or 7.5. So
then again, by the time that this airs, this line could have changed if something happens with Amari Cooper.
Yeah.
Well, he's questionable right now.
Zan, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I just think simply put that the Jets got lucky last week that they were playing a bad team, and Cleveland has a lot riding on this. This is their best season in arguably 20 years, and they want to make this right for their fans. They want to potentially guarantee their fans a home playoff game, and there's no way, given the stakes of this game and given the way that Joe Flacco has been playing as of late, that the Browns will let this slip away. So, with that said, I expect Joe Flacco to have a big game. I expect David Njoku to catch 2 touchdowns, and I think that the Browns do just enough to pull it out and cover the 7.5. So give me a final score of 28-17 for Cleveland, and they clinch that long-awaited playoff spot that I'm sure those people of Cleveland have waited a couple of years for, and it'll be a party. That's for sure.
So I'll be the lone wolf to start here on Thursday. Tom, it's a Joe Buck, Troy Aikman, Lisa Salter special on ESPN. It is the Detroit Lions and Jared Goff, the NFC North champion Detroit Lions, heading to AT&T Stadium to take on Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. And it's the boys a 6-point favorite.
Yeah, don't remind me. So it's 2 teams that technically are division rivals. The 2 teams I support. Jeez. Oh, but then again, it's the Dallas Cowboys. You know, now with the Dallas Cowboys got a playoff spot, and they're chasing the NFC East title. Which, by the way, no playoff clinching scenario for this one. However, a Dallas loss on Saturday does open the door for the potential of Philadelphia clinching on Sunday. So that is something to really watch out for. But yeah, 2 teams that have their playoff berths but are looking to increase their position when it comes to the NFC seeding. I think Jared Goff has done a hell of a job. Dan Campbell, I mean, what else can you say? Everything that we were praising the Lions about and Dan Campbell about last season, that success has continued into this season. It has been a hell of a ride for the Lions, and now their first division title since they won the NFC Central in 1993, a division that doesn't even exist anymore. And Dallas, I mean, they're still chasing the Eagles. I know there's a lot of concern about the Eagles. I know Dallas is playing out. Dallas has been, I don't know if I want to say playing out of their minds, but they are playing excellent. Dak having an MVP caliber year. The thing is, Dallas still has its momentum. You know, they play a really tough schedule. They played to end the year. They had a really close outing against Miami. They didn't get the win. It was only 3 points. It came down to a field goal at the very end. The Lions struggle. They nearly lost to the Vikings, a really banged up Vikings team. That's a bit so. What is that, like 4 or 5 losses before that victory against the Vikings? That's a concern. That's a really big concern on my part. And the Cowboys, for whatever they have gone through this season, you know, they have been firing on all cylinders. I guess I heard it. Relax. It wasn't that. You said it was going to be on mute, but I actually heard that, Nick.
I don't know why it went off. My bad.
So here, I'll just put it like this. How about them Cowboys? Take the money.
There you go, Jerry. That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, Tom, I'll give you a fun fact, a fun playoff picture scenario. If the Lions win out and the 49ers lose to either the Commanders or the Rams, the Lions will have the 1 seed in the first round bye.
Oh.
But that's not going to happen. So last week, my pick was more anti-Dolphin than pro-Cowboy. My pick this week is more pro-Cowboy, and more specifically, more pro-Cowboy at AT&T Stadium. I mean, The phrases night and day and Jekyll and Hyde are both overused, but they could not be more accurate when it comes to talking about the Dak and the boys on the road and at home. At home, they're 7-0. They're averaging almost 40 points per game, and maybe more staggering, they have a plus 171 point differential at AT&T Stadium. That's why I'm going to take the Cowboys to win 30-20 on Monday Night Football on a Saturday. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, this should be an excellent game to cap off. What obviously will. It'll be an excellent game to cap of what is the regular season Monday Night Football slate, despite it being on a Saturday. And I just think Dallas has a lot to play for. They know that the NFC East is still within their grasp, and I just think the Cowboys are a different team at home. And I just think Detroit's been kind of playing a little down to their competition. You could argue that if a couple of calls go Minnesota's way, the Lions lose that game, and it isn't a celebratory scene in Detroit last week. That obviously didn't happen, but I just think Dak Prescott does enough. And simply, I think the offense is better. I think that Brandon Cooks is a big day. I think at Dallas is a big day running the football, and I think their defense gets some key stops. They'll probably end up winning this game somewhere around, I would say, 38 to 31, so they'll just cover inside that number, but I think Dallas does enough to win the game and impresses considering that these last couple of games, especially that Miami game a week ago, I'm sure they would love to have back. So give me the Cowboys to outduel Jared Goff in Detroit.
Nick, what do you think here?
Yeah, I mean, the Cowboys, I kind of laughed. I kind of had my Stephen A moment last week as the Dolphins beat the Cowboys because, again, am I really surprised by that? No, the Cowboys can't win a game when they have to play the big teams on the line and the pressure is on them. Sorry, Jerry, but your team can't beat top 3 or 4 teams.
Screw you, Morgasen, all right? Screw you. You don't know my team like I do.
Well, they have a chance here. What about here?
Believe it or not, Jerry, I got to take your side on this one. I'm taking the Cowboys. Yeah, don't get used to it, Jerry. It's not going to happen very often. The Lions haven't been playing good football. That's as simple as I'll put it. They've been, the beginning of the year, they played really sound football. Jared Goff is playing good football. Now their offense is struggling. And the Cowboys at home are actually a much better team at home than they are on the road. The splits prove it. So as simple as that, I'm going to take them to cover.
And Paul.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think that the Lions have been very up and down this year, especially as of late as the season's kind of come down to an end. And even this past week, they were a game that they probably should have won by an even bigger margin. I mean, it's fantastic that they ended up wrapping up the division, their first division title in 30 years. But I'm going to go with the Cowboys on this one too. They're a great team at home. And the Cowboys still are trying to, even though it's very unlikely that they'll end up winning the NFC East, they're still in dogfight with it. They're one game behind the Eagles, and they're going to need to win their last 2. So they're going to come out strong with this one, and to try to avoid the 5 seed, because it's a big difference between the 1 seed and the 5 seed. That's for sure. So
I'm going to throw a question at you about that though, Paul. Considering the fact that the NFC South is so weak, and it seems like if the Cowboys, well, regardless of who the Cowboys or Eagles, whoever ends up as the 5 seed, you'll have to travel to what's likely Tampa Bay. But I feel like with Philadelphia and Dallas, even with their struggles with, the lights being up and the pressure's on like Dallas, or just the Eagles' momentum, I feel like whoever gets the 5 seed could have that easy win, though.
That's definitely true. I mean, I think that you could look at it like that, but you could also look at it like, say the Cowboys do win the division and they end up getting like the 2 seed or so, and they get matched up with a Seattle or something like that at home. I like that matchup just as much as I like them going to Tampa Bay. Something like that. So I think that but it's a very good point too, because especially if they get the 1 seed, obviously there's a lot of questions with the bye week in the first round of the playoffs too, if that's even a good thing, if that's a bad thing, whatever it is. But it's a good point. But the 5 at the end of the day, the 5 seed really isn't the worst thing in the world, because you'll end up getting to play against the Buccaneers or whoever ends up winning the division, if it's the Falcons possibly, and you might have to play an away game, but you should easily win that game regardless.
Find out. We go from this NFC
Hold
playoff.
on, Johnny. We do have a plug, or at least Nick Morgasen and I have to.
I apologize. Go ahead.
All right. One more live stream for the regular season for the ETV network. It's going to be myself and Nick Morgasen and whoever else. I just know it's going to be me and Nick. And we got the Lions and Cowboys. It is Monday Night Football on Saturday night, because we can't have it on actual Monday night because that's New Year's. So, for all you college fans, you can have all the college bowl games on that day. So this Saturday, December 30th, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, presented, of course, by Wolf Spreads.
Boy, that means I'm gonna have to sit next to Jerry Jones for 3 hours.
I was just
right.
And this has a potential of being an NFC playoff matchup in the postseason. And we also could be looking at an AFC playoff preview with this next game, guys. An Iron Eagle, Charles Davis, and Evan Washburn special on CBS as Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins take on Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. The Ravens at M&T Bank Stadium are a 3-point favorite. And I'm taking the Ravens here, guys. 3 times this year, the Dolphins have faced a great team with a great defense away from Hard Rock Stadium, and they've lost all 3. The only question mark I have with this one is, will there be a slight letdown at the Christmas night win there for the Ravens? But I just don't see it. Now, oddly, Baltimore is 4-3 against the spread at home. Miami does have the speed that could make them an intriguing play here, but I just think Baltimore's deep physicality is going to be the difference here. So I'm going to take the Ravens laying the 3 points. I think they win this one 30-24 over the Dolphins. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
All right,
we have a scenario here too, right?
Yeah, we got double scenario.
Nice.
Right.
Only appropriate with how good this team is.
Major double scenario. So let's start with Miami. A Miami victory or a Buffalo loss, and Miami wins the AFC East. A Cleveland Brown loss, and Baltimore will take the AFC North. However, a Baltimore victory here, which you are predicting, Johnny. Not only do the Ravens win the AFC North, but in the words of Scott Hansen on the NFL Red Zone, the road to the Super Bowl on the AFC side will go through Baltimore. A Baltimore victory here locks up the number 1 seed.
Nice. And by the way, speaking of one Scott Hansen, he's going to be a very busy guy here on New Year's Eve because this is the first of 10 games in the 1 p.m. Eastern window on Sunday. San?
Yeah, I mean, this is a potential AFC championship preview written all over. You could say this is the de facto AFC championship game before the playoffs. I mean, both of these teams are just absolute juggernauts with 2 excellent quarterbacks that just love to score at will. But I just seem to not be able to trust Miami in cold weather. I think this is going to be a prequel of what could potentially happen in the postseason, and I just think that Lamar Jackson's playing out of his mind right now. That defense went easy in San Francisco. I didn't realize that third secondary was going to be able to get up for that game, and I was totally wrong on that. So I just think overall the Ravens are simply the better football team right now, and no disrespect to Tua, Mike Daniel, Tyreek Hill, or any of them, but if one of those guys doesn't show up, it's gonna be a long day at M&T Bank Stadium. So give me the Ravens to win comfortably. I'm gonna say they secure a late interception and win by 10, 37-27, doing just enough to cover the 3-point spread and get a huge home win and clinch the number 1 seed throughout the AFC postseason.
Nick, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the same boat with Zan. The Ravens played really well this past week. The Dolphins kind of scared me a little bit the way they played this past week, even though it was a close game and everything. Jalen Waddle is probably out with a high ankle sprain.
Confirmed. I shouldn't say confirmed, but very unexpected. It's likely within the next day or two it will be confirmed.
And Tyreek's not 100% healthy still. He still looks a little banged up. If Jalen Waddle doesn't play, I think the Ravens are going to win. I think they're going to win anyway, just because I think the Ravens are healthier and the offense is finally coming around with momentum. So the Dolphins still haven't 100% proven to me that they're going to make a large playoff run. They're a great regular season team, but they got to prove that they can make it through the playoffs and with a long stretch. And Tua is great. He's going to be up there in the top 5 quarterbacks this year, but he's got to prove to make a run. Lamar looked great, just beating the Niners, which was unexpected this past week. No one expected that. If anyone had the Ravens on the bingo card winning on the road, then you're crazy. But I'm taking the Ravens to cover.
And let me give a shout out to Paul over there on top. Paul did have the Ravens covering last week, so he did win that game.
Wow.
Paul, what about them in this one?
I needed to get something. I'm in dead last, so I'm glad that ended
close,
up going
though.
up.
It's a very close. It's close over there.
It is. It could go any which way, but this was going to be interesting because the Dolphins have not been able to prove that they can really beat all these good teams throughout the entire season. You got Waddle and Tyreek Hill are both banged up. I know Tyreek Hill missed practice today. I highly doubt that he'll miss the game. It was more for rest, I think. But Waddle's a little bit banged up as well. And the Ravens showed a lot in this past week's win. I wasn't completely sold on them, but their defense is tough. Lamar Jackson is playing great right now. I think that this game in Baltimore, I like the Ravens at -3. I think they're going to wrap up the number 1 seed, and this is going to make things interesting because, I mean, we'll be talking about it next, but the Bills have a pretty easy matchup. So Dolphins-Bills coming down to Week 18. Neither of them will have clinched the division quite yet, so it can make things interesting for the last week of the season.
So you have the Ravens, right?
Paul, I guess a follow-up to that would be if there is a scenario where the AFC East is not clinched this week, could you very well see the NFL making Week 18 this Monday night game, the AFC East championship between Miami and the Bills?
Oh, absolutely. I think you have to. That's got to be if this is exactly how it goes. I mean, the Bills should have an easy road this week, but like the Dolphins Ravens game is going to be interesting. If that's the case, that's got to be Sunday Night Football for Week 18.
So
absolutely,
you have the Ravens covering though, right?
I've got the Ravens covering. Yes.
Okay.
Tom, what do you have?
In response to Zan, by the way, yes, absolutely, but I don't know all the mathematical playoff scenarios. I mean, if you have a game between two teams that are fighting for a wild card where the loser goes home, they might make that one Sunday night. They might consider it. Yeah, I should say. Depends on the teams that would be fighting in.
Or I guess you're right, because they could make Dolphins-Ravens the lead 425 game on CBS.
You mean a Dolphins-Bills game for the division?
Yeah, Dolphins-Bills for the division is the lead 425 game.
I'd say that's a possibility, again, only if the Sunday night game ends up being two teams that are playing one another where it's win or go home, basically.
Right, exactly.
But that being said, yeah, I'm pretty much in full agreement with my ATB Sports co-host, Nick Morgasen. Jalen Waddle not playing this game is a massive blow to Miami. I mean, it's already a blow that they have to go to Baltimore. It's already a blow that I'm sure you guys have seen the stats already about them playing winning teams versus them playing losing teams. And then you've got Jalen Waddle not playing. Tyreek isn't 100%. I could totally see the Ravens defense, which has had its pretty good moments over the last several weeks, double teaming Tyreek, and then you're going to have to force a lot of runs. And most are, credit to Miami. They've got some pretty strong running backs too, but I think the Ravens will be able to handle that. And as you guys mentioned, Lamar is playing out of his mind. We just mentioned how Dak is an MVP candidate. Lamar has to be an MVP candidate for certain if you're going to throw Dak's name in there. Because Lamar and the offense, I had a lot of questions, but they've been clicking. Zay Flowers has been delivering as a rookie. Odell Beckham has had his fair share of moments over the last couple weeks, I do have to admit. The Gus Bus has delivered. He had a little injury scare earlier this year, but he has definitely been excellent. I think the Ravens are and the offensive defensive line it's an all around great defensive unit, which is something that you need to be one of the best teams, if not the best team in the National Football League, which the Ravens are. I am laying the 3 points down on the Ravens, and they will control the AFC.
So a clean sweep for us there at M&T Bank Stadium. All right, Paul, you referenced this game before. Let's go to you here. It's a Kevin Harlan. Yeah, Tom, this I know you're going to be very busy with this one, but let me get Paul in here first. A Kevin Harlan, Trent Green, Melanie Collins special on CBS in Orchard Park. It is the New England Patriots and the Buffalo Bills, with the Bills a 13-point favorite, and the only thing that's more than 13 are the possible playoff scenarios for the Bills in this one, Tom, right?
I'm not joking. The NFL press release has 14 scenarios for the Bills.
All right, let's try and sum it up to the unique ones.
Here's how I'm going to only say 5 of them because the other 9 deal with ties, and I'm not going to go with Buffalo on ties. So here's how I'll lay it out. Can Buffalo win the division this week? As Paul mentioned before, no, they cannot. But a victory can clinch them a playoff berth as long as one of the following scenarios happens. A combination loss by Pittsburgh and Cincinnati, a combination loss by Pittsburgh and Jacksonville, or a combination loss of Cincinnati and Jacksonville. So one of those 3 teams, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Jacksonville, if 2 of them lose, Buffalo's in with a win. But it can also happen if you if Houston loses, Indianapolis loses, or one of either Pittsburgh or Cincinnati loses. Again, all of that is depending upon a Buffalo victory here.
I'm looking at the series. I printed out a copy for myself today because we didn't know if you were going to be here. It's quite insane. Paul, Bills a 13-point favor. I think maybe the only question mark we have is, are they going to be able to cover this 13 points, or what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, clearly they're going to win this game. It's in Buffalo, but Patriots and Bills is always an interesting matchup, and I feel like 13 is just such a big number. Especially, we saw the Patriots coming across a great game this past week. I'm going to take the Patriots at plus 13 this week. I'm going to say that they stay within the number. Obviously the Bills are still going to win this game, but I'm going to go with the Patriots at plus 13.
Tom, what about you?
Take the money. Oops. Tony Reality's hitting the wrong button.
Hold on. Okay, now I've corrected that. No, don't take the money. And honestly, I might agree with Paul on this one. I don't know. That 13 is a little scary to me. The Bills are certainly winning this game, without question. But it's a matter of, the Bills they definitely have turned it around concerning, all the concerns we had about them in the last few weeks. That being said, this is still a divisional game, and we know how weird these divisional games can get. New England has had its fair share of momentum, even if it has come against teams that, really the Patriots, wasn't the worst kind of matchups. I mean, that being said, the Bills may also fall into that caliber, considering that they only have, 9 wins so far this season. You would have thought that maybe they would have had their 10th win by now, heading into the last 2 weeks of the regular season. So, I think the Bills are a strong team. I'm just concerned about that line. You guys know me and the Y double-digit line, so I'm going to go... Yeah, you and I are I like that, Nick. So I'm going to go with Buffalo, but I am going to take the plus 13 on the Pats.
So you guys know I have no issue laying 13 points in NFL games a lot of the time, right?
Correct.
This is too big of a number. And you know what? Weather could be a factor up there in Orchard Park on Sunday. And when you're laying 13 points, when weather could be a factor, I can't do that. The Patriots have been playing better here these last couple of weeks. Remember, in their first meeting, the Bills were a 9-point favorite in Foxborough, and the Patriots won outright. Now, again, I don't see that happening. I think the Bills, they will have revenge on their mind. They didn't play that great. They did win against the Chargers last Saturday. So I think this is a 10-point win up there. So I'm gonna say the Bills win, but I'm gonna grab the points with the Patriots there as well. But Buffalo's going to continue their winning ways and continue to be a force here down the stretch. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously a critical divisional game for the Bills' AFC East title hopes. Obviously, they're obviously going to make the playoffs given the scenarios that are at play here. But I was going to go with you guys and say that 13's too big of a number. I just don't think so. I think Denver gave the game away to New England last week. I think New England isn't a very good football team, and even though Belichick has them playing hard, a 3-win football team is still a 3-win football team. And back when New England was, doing halfway decent through 3 to the first 5 weeks of the year, one of their wins was against the Bills. I think that Patriots team was totally different than the Patriots team you see now, and I think the Bills are about to make a statement. And Miami is still sitting in the rearview mirror for that game in the last week and a potential playoff rematch down the road. So with all that being said, I think this is a statement for the Bills, a statement game for Josh Allen. So give me the Bills to cover the 13 in this game fairly easily. Yeah, I feel extremely comfortable picking this game simply for the sole purpose that the Patriots have nothing to play for. So
you are going to take the money. Okay. And Nick Morgasen, what about you?
So I have it for a completely different reason. I agree with what Tom said, and I've been on that train forever. Anything over 10 is a lot. It's a lot to cover. Your touchdown plus is a lot to cover. But I'm not going to say it's because the Patriots are going to play well. I think Josh Allen and the Bills are going to play down to the Patriots. because they just have nothing to play for. So what the Bills are not going to put in a plus effort to a team that they know they don't have to put a full effort into. So I think it's going to be Patriots plus 13. They're not the Patriots don't have a chance in hell to win this game whatsoever. But I just think they're going to play down because they're going to realize I don't have to waste every single part of my energy that I would have to put up against a Baltimore or a Miami or another team of that regard. So I'm taking Patriots plus 13.
So that means Zan's going to be the lone wolf there because Ben and Nick D also are taking the Patriots plus the 13 there at Orchard Park. All right, these next couple of games, guys, do not have any playoff implications, so we'll try and make these really, really quick here. Zan, we'll go to you. It's your game. Chris Lewis, Jason McCourty, Ross Tucker, and Amanda Renner special on CBS as Taylor Heineke and the Atlanta Falcons take on Justin Fields and your Bears. And the Bears, a field goal favorite at Soldier Field.
Yes, the Bears are 4-2 over their last 6 games and are playing their best football of the season. I think that Justin Fields is making a case for him to be back next year, potentially with Marvin Harrison or to alongside him if the Bears know how to competently draft in the first round. And I still think the Bears have a ton to play for, even though their playoff chances are slim to none. And you mentioned it in your open. Taylor Heineke, he's really shaky. He's either hit or miss. Obviously, the Falcons played well a week ago, but you don't know what Taylor Heineke you're going to get. So if that's said, and then traveling into cold weather or non-home stadium like Soldier Field, this is a very easy pick for me. I'm very comfortable picking my hometown Bears with the 3 and getting a huge win with the Packers on the horizon in Week 18, which could very well be an elimination game up there in Lambeau. So give me the Bears.
What about you, Nick?
This is a crapshoot game in every way, shape, or form. The Bears are actually the better team in this scenario, and I haven't said that very many times this year. The Falcons' quarterback situation is a mess. Obviously, if you have Heineke starting, you have no idea what you're going to get. Is Bijan Robinson going to show up and play football? We haven't really seen that all year. Or is he going to be sick and they're going to screw up the injury report and all that stuff again? I'm with Zan on this one. I'm taking the Bears to cover. I just think they're the better team in this scenario only.
Paul?
Yeah, no, I agree. This is a game that could go either way, but I'm leaning towards the Bears at -3 in Chicago. They've been playing much better recently. I like what I've seen from Justin Fields. The Falcons are just a dumpster fire right now. They don't have a quarterback. Their young players have not been playing well, so I'm going to go with the Bears.
Tom, what about you?
All right, so yeah, I'm on the train with you guys. The Bears are just really good. It's scary to say that after all the time that we were basically crapping on the first half of the season, as Zan mentioned, they're 4-2 in their last 6. Justin Fields has been playing decent, and I think you got to give credit to the defense where it's due, guys. Defense has had its successes in these weeks as well, and you're playing another team that's so Jekyll and Hyde. And well, let's be clear, Arthur Smith doesn't know how to use this, guys. It's really sad to say that. Bijan Robinson, Kyle Pitts, Drake London. I think I mentioned this last week. They have all the potential in the world to have a really solid young team, and it's just they're not developing them in the way that they should. Is part of that because their quarterback is Taylor Heineke? Maybe. But there's also just when it comes to the coaching, because some baffling decisions, which, by the way, I hope the Falcons are enjoying that $100,000 total that between them as the team and Arthur Smith had to pay because of the whole Bijan Robinson screw up. So I am taking the Bears. I'm going to lay that -3. And Zan, I had success with it last week. This is a small enough line that I'm going to do it again. This is
wow.
That's awesome.
Something that's more rare than taking the bench lock on the Bears is bench locking them 2 weeks in a row. Yeah, guys, awesome. Very simple. I'm taking the more consistent team with the quarterback that I trust more. Give me Justin Fields and the Bears to win and cover over the Atlanta Falcons at Soldier Field. That's all it needs to be said there in Chicago. Nick,
are the other guys picking the Bears too, or does anybody of Atlanta?
I'm sorry. Let me take a look real quick.
Do what they dare. Do Nick and Benny.
So Ben Kruse took the Bears, and Nick D took the Falcons. So Nick D is going to be a lone wolf there at Soldier Field.
No, you didn't.
No way.
And you know what? 3. I don't think he would take the Bears to win and the Falcons to cover 3 or less. So I think he's taking them fully there at Soldier Field. So he will be the lone wolf. Nick, it's a Chris Myers, Robert Smith, Jen Hale special on the NFL on Fox. It is, yes, this is an AFC South matchup on Fox. It is the Tennessee Titans and Houston Texans at NRG Stadium. Question will be, do we see Will Levis and CJ Stroud duke it out here? We'll find out, but this line might tell you something. The Texans are a 5-point favorite.
Well, it looks like Stroud is going to play. He was out the last couple of weeks. It looks like he's back on the field. Will Levis is questionable too with his injury. I think he's going to play, but he's been questionable all week trying to get back on the field. Now, they won last week, right? If I'm not mistaken, or no?
What are we looking at here?
The Titans?
The Browns beat the Texans, and the Seahawks beat the Titans. So no, the
Oh,
Titans
was it?
lost, and they both lost last week.
Actually,
they both
I
lost.
think I know what you're referring to, Nick. That week 15, when CJ Stroud wasn't playing, and they didn't have Tank and they didn't have Nico, but the Texans still won in overtime.
Right.
2 weeks ago, when these two played
That was
each
2
other
weeks
2 weeks
ago,
ago, the Texans won in overtime. Yes.
Well, I'll tell you right now, if Stroud is playing, this line's going to hold true because I just think Stroud is way better than Levis. I guess we're going to assume Stroud is going to play since he was out the last couple of weeks. So I'm going to take the Texans because they're finally back at full strength, health-wise. So obviously the Texans, healthier, are going to win at home.
Paul, what do you say?
Yeah, I think if Stroud plays, that this is going to be a Texans win. This is going to be a close one, though. Not necessarily that I think the Titans are going to win the game, but I think it's going to be a pretty close game, and it might be within the -5. I'm going to take the Texans at -5, though, just because the Titans, they're completely out of it now. They've been eliminated and don't have much to play for. Be interesting to see what you kind of get out of that team, but I'm going to go with the Texans.
Tom, what do you think here?
Okay, so if you remember when we did this 2 weeks ago, I made that Wolf spreads bet before I realized Stroud was out. And that still ended up paying well for me because the Texans were the underdog in that game. But here, they're the -5 favorite. And it ended up with a 19-16 score. You're right. I'm curious to see, you're right, Paul. I'm curious to see what happens with the Titans that have nothing to play for, how much they're going to play, how Stroud's going to look considering his injury and all that. So I think that week I went thumbs middle, and you know what? I'll go thumbs middle for this one as well. I'm going to take the Texans to win, but I will lay the +5 on the Titans. I'll take the 1 point.
Yeah. It's a big number for a divisional matchup, but I think this line is telling me that Stroud's going to play. And just in between the last 2 weeks, the Texans have been better. The Titans have been worse. And I keep going to the well with Tennessee. I went to them twice in a row here, at home no less, and they lost both times. And they are not a good team away they haven't been good at home. They haven't been good away from home. So I am going to lay the 5 points with Houston to win and cover here. And D'Amico Ryans continues to make his case for Coach of the Year that they're at NRG Stadium. And Zan, what about you?
Simply put, this may be a surprise to somebody if CJ Stroud plays. The Houston Texans -5 are my lock of the week. This to me seems like a very easy pick. This to me seems like a Tennessee Titans team that's absolutely depleted, and it seems like Houston is a ton to play for. Obviously, Johnny, as you mentioned several times, D'Amico Ryans is definitely making his case for Coach of the Year, and definitely CJ Stroud is playing like someone who has a chance to be a future NFL superstar in the next couple of years, and I think a fully healthy CJ Stroud means that the Texans are dangerous. And with that being said, I think that this 5 points is super easy. And you could argue that if CJ Stroud plays, that this line could very well be more than what it actually is.
So you are going to make this your lock of the week?
Yep.
Okay, you were just saying if there. I just wanted to be sure. So we're going to lock that in for you there with the Houston Texans. All right, Zan, we ended with you there. We'll start with you here. It's an Andrew Catalan, Tiki Barber, Matt Ryan, and AJ Ross special on the NFL on CBS as Aiden O'Connell and the Las Vegas Raiders head to Lucas Oil Stadium to take on Gardner Minshew and the Indianapolis Colts, and the Colts are laying 3.5.
Yeah, there's just something about the Raiders traveling to the Eastern time zone that I just don't like. I think having to travel through a bunch of different time zones, especially riding that high off of last week's upset win in Kansas City, I just don't think it's going to translate. Simply put, the Colts are a better team. I think the Raiders had a nice 1 week run, but it's too little to wait for Pearson Company, and I think that the Colts have a lot to play for, considering that the AFC South is still at play, and this is arguably a de facto playoff game for them. Where if they lose, it could smell smell bad news for everybody there. And I think this is just one of those games where I think Jonathan Taylor plays really well. I think that Gardner Minshew manages the game, throws a touchdown, and easily covered it. So give me the Colts to end the Raiders season and the Raiders playoff hopes and stay alive for AFC South title. So give me the Colts.
We'll lay a little money there. Nick, what about you?
I don't know. I've been on the Minshew train all season. I think he's playing really well. Pittman was, I think, on the injury report all week and last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Mhm.
I think he's healthy, which is a big thing.
As of the time we're recording, he's still in concussion protocol.
Oh, he is. Okay, but
We don't know. They're hopeful he will play this week. They're hopeful.
If he's hopeful to play, then they're going to win. Even though the Raiders have a lot of momentum, they just came off the victory against the Chiefs, by the way, which was kind of a shocker to everybody who was watching, including someone sitting here.
Well, we'll save that for when we get to them.
But I don't know. The Colts are not the Chiefs. I'm willing to say that. But I just think that Minshew's been playing really well. He's auditioning for a new contract, whether it's here or it's going to be for another team. It's a close one, but we also have to take into account what Nick D said the last couple of weeks. The home and away splits being reverse for the Colts, being one of the worst home teams in the NFL, which makes no sense whatsoever. This is a tough one. I'm struggling. You know what? I'm going to go against what I was going to say. I'm going to take the Raiders plus 3.5 and to win outright. This is going to be my upset this week.
There you go. All right, Paul, what about you?
Yeah, I was going back and forth on this, to be honest. With the Raiders coming off of the big win against the Chiefs, I mean, these are two teams that are completely fighting for their playoff lives right now. A loss for the Raiders could pretty much do it and end their season. The Colts right now are sitting at the 7th seed, and they're also still strongly in play to win the AFC South as well, with the Jaguars, not playing well. The Jaguars do have an easy matchup this week, which we'll go over next. But these are two teams that have a lot on the line in this game. And, I was thinking that the Raiders could possibly pull it out. I'm leaning more towards the Colts in this one. I know that they haven't been a great home team, but Minshew has played well this season. They've just been playing a lot better. And I feel like the Raiders, they'll have one good week, one really bad week. And that's kind of like defined their season. And I think that their win against the Chiefs, I don't know if they're going to be able to come back and, rematch what they were able to do against the Chiefs. So I'm going to go with the Colts at minus 3.5.
And Tom, what about you?
Yeah, I've been going back and forth like you guys, because on one hand, Minshew Mania is running wild in Indianapolis, brother. On the other hand, without Michael Pittman, I mean, that's a bit of a struggle. And the Colts offense, guys, just looked horrendous against Atlanta, which is really, really bad considering the fluctuating state that we just talked about with that Atlanta team. The Raiders, and also considering that as Nick Morgasen mentioned, which Nick D has mentioned in the past, the home road split with Indianapolis, that they, for some reason, cannot play well in Lucas Oil. The Raiders, traveling to the East Coast is a bit rough, but they traveled to the East Coast, I think it was start of November, and they performed admirably there. And, well, let's be real. Antonio Pierce has completely turned that team around. And they should not do what they did with Bisaccia, that Bisaccia led them to a playoff spot, and then they effed up, and they got the offensive guru, Josh McDaniels, to be their head coach, and that played very well. They should not screw that up, and they should just take the interim tag off of Antonio Pierce and just make him the head coach at this point. That said, I'm seeing more positives for the Raiders here, so I'm going to join you, Nick Morgasen.
Yeah, I know you guys are going back and forth on this. I'm a little bit more confident in this pick than some of the other games. My play here is the Raiders. And you know what? You guys are talking about the inconsistencies with the Colts. Let's also talk about the Raiders defense, which has been absolutely playing at a high level here. And Max Crosby's been fantastic. The Colts defense is not good. And you know, it is inconsistent. Their offense is inconsistent. Gardner Minshew is a great backup. He is not an every week starter. I'm sorry, he's not. So I'm getting that extra half a point too, so I can at least get the win in that regard. I'm taking the Raiders here on the road for my guy Antonio Pierce and Aiden O'Connell to continue their winning ways there on the road. And yes, hopefully they strip that interim tag off him and make him the full-time coach starting next season there in Vegas. So it will be a split decision for us here at Lucas Oil Stadium. Paul, it's a Spiro Ditas, Adam Archuleta, and a Didi Kinkabella special on CBS as we've got Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers taking on the Jacksonville Jaguars. And yes, we do have a playoff scenario here too. The Jaguars at Everbank Stadium are a 6.5-point favorite. Yes, Tom, go for it.
Okay. Listen, so it's funny that we just had the Texans and Colts that we just talked about because Jacksonville cannot clinch this on a win alone. They need to win their game here against the Carolina Panthers, and Indy and Houston both need to lose their games in order for Jacksonville to clinch the AFC South. So if this is going off what most of us were thinking about Indianapolis losing but Houston winning, I mean, it could very well come down to Week 18. Unfortunately, I don't think Jacksonville and Houston are playing each other Week 18. I think they're playing the other. Yeah, so it's gonna be one of those things where their two games could be booked at the same time, and we'll have to see how both of them played out. But it's just saying, it's a very interesting thing that can happen here.
Yeah, Colts, Texans, and Jaguars, Titans in Week 18. But yeah, Week 17, Paul, what do you think about this matchup?
Yeah, this is, I mean, it's a tough one. Panthers are obviously have been probably the worst team in football all season. They're completely out of it. They've got nothing left to play for. And the Jaguars have just not been good. They started off the season okay, and they showed so much promise, but they've been falling to bad teams all season long. They're in the 4 seed right now, slated to win the South at 8-7, but they have the Colts and the Texans strong on their tail. So this is such a tough one because I think the Jaguars are going to win this game. There's no excuse that they shouldn't win this game, but somebody's telling me it's going to be smaller than 6.5. I think that's too big of a number with how questionable the Jaguars have been playing this year. I know the Panthers are not good. I know they're really not playing for anything, but I like the Panthers at plus 6.5 and the Jaguars to win this. I think I'm going to roll with that. Am I completely confident in that? I think it can kind of go either way, but I'm going to go with that.
Tom, what about you?
Just for clarity's sake, by the way, I do not believe that Carolina can clinch the number 1 pick for the Bears with this week, unless Arizona pulls off the upset against Philadelphia, which, but that's for later. But it is going to be, if a Carolina loss here, which is what I'm thinking, then it's going to be one step closer. The only thing that concerns me is that, for as good of a team as we did see Jacksonville be in the first half of the season, they have just taken quite the nosedive. They have not been playing up to competitive level. And Carolina, for all the trash we talk about, and did get a win recently. And I could very well see this being a scenario where Jacksonville kind of plays down a little bit because it's Carolina and they already aren't playing to potential. And because of that, Jacksonville could fall behind early, or they could end up, having a lead and basically letting up and letting Carolina get back into it. So I'm going to, I'm just going to do what you said, Paul. I'm going to take Jacksonville, but I'm not taking that money. I'm going to lay the plus 6.5 on Carolina.
I totally agree with you guys. This number is way too big, and just let's go over a couple of things here. Yeah, the Panthers have not gotten that fired coach boost, but Bryce Young has looked better, and against a poor pass defense, he should have a good game in this one. He scored 30 points last week against the Packers, And we all know about the Jaguars' defense, especially against the pass. And also, there's way, way too many concerns here with the Jaguars. And you just start with Trevor Lawrence, who just seems to have a new injury every week. He didn't practice as of Wednesday, so we don't know if he's going to even go out there and play on Sunday, and if he does, how effective he's going to be. So if that's the case, you're looking at C.J. Beathard. Heck, they had to sign Matt Barkley off our Giants practice squad. It's getting to be that bad there in Jacksonville. So I'm absolutely grabbing the points here with the Panthers. If I actually had the guts to go on wolf spreads and do this, I actually would be bold enough to say that the Panthers could win this game outright because of the issues that the Jaguars have. I will not do that here. I will take at least the 1 point, and I will grab them to cover. I think the Jaguars eke out a win, but there's way, way too many problems here in Jacksonville right now. Zan?
Yeah, this is one of those crapshoot kind of games where you don't know what Jacksonville team you're going to get, but I'm going to go on the same wavelength as all of you. I think that if Bryce Young and a little bit more talent around this Panthers team would be a lot better, and I think they're catching the Jaguars at the right time just because they really stumbled after starting 8-3. This is a game that Jacksonville should win. It should put them in a comfortable spot either in the division this coming week or the following week. But I just think, again, this number is way too big. I think Carolina keeps it close throughout. I think that there's a good chance that maybe Carolina misses a game-time field goal or a scenario of that sort where the game is really close and either team will have to rally to win. So with that said, just given Jacksonville's struggles and Carolina nearly beating Green Bay a week ago and them playing better football the last month of the season, I like the Jaguars to win, but kind of like all of you, I love Carolina a 6.5 here, and I think they keep it surprisingly close, and I think this is one of the most entertaining games that nobody is talking about this week. So, give me the split here on that pick.
All right, Nick.
I think I'm just gonna complete the full round here. Yeah, I'm taking the Panthers plus 6.5. The Jaguars to win. Trevor Lawrence, do we know if he's 100% healthy? That's kind of the big question mark.
No,
even if he plays, I don't trust him to have a Trevor Lawrence game, which is going to be a problem because they rely, even though they rely a lot on ETN in the running game, they rely on him with those long throws down the field to make yardage. And he's not going to be able to do that with the shoulder injury and a lot of the other injuries he's been having. So Jaguars win, Panthers stay within the number.
It's a rare, complete a sweep of a non-cover there. We're taking a team to win, but not taking the money. Yeah,
Johnny,
yeah.
I'm afraid to ask, considering what we said with the Bears game, but did Nick and Ben do the same?
Nick D, wait a minute. I'm going to say it right now. Nick D took the Jaguars to cover.
Ben here.
I don't know. I didn't look.
What did Ben do?
I don't think I have his pick here for that game. I'll have to ask for it. I mean, unless I'm skipping right over it.
Okay, but okay. Then
he doesn't have that pick, so I'm gonna have to message him about that. Nick D did take Jacksonville to win and cover.
I knew it.
At this point, I have a message for Nick DiMartino. I just need to find it here. Okay,
stay off the weed.
Yeah.
What kind of picks is he making this week?
Just to be fair, Nick DiMartino has the best overall record of anybody in this competition so far. He may not have the
point.
He's got
watch now. I look like an absolute jerk. Watch now. Both these blow up in my face.
Yeah. Well, Tom, let's go to this one. This one does have a playoff scenario, but we'll make this one quick. We've got
it does actually.
What's that?
It does actually.
There is a playoff scenario, but we'll make it quick anyway. We got Kevin Kukler, Mark Sanchez, and Laura Oakman, a great trio at MetLife Stadium here on the NFL on Fox, as Matt Stafford and the Rams take on Tyrod Taylor and our New York Football Giants, and the Rams are a 4.5-point favorite.
Okay. For the Rams to clinch a playoff berth, they must win, and then one of two things must happen. Number one, Seattle loses. Or alternatively, number two, Green Bay and Minnesota on Sunday Night Football tie.
That'd be some way to end the week.
Wouldn't be for anybody who supports the Vikings. But that being said, I I'm just gonna go with the Rams. Look, the Giants, as you said, Johnny, they are one of the most disrespected teams when it comes to the lines. This one, I don't really believe it's so much being disrespected. I mean, the Giants defense does have its moments. The Giants offense looked a lot better under Tyrod Taylor last week after Tommy Cutlets ended up getting benched halfway through the game. But that being said, this is a Rams team that has had a lot of positive momentum in this season. Matthew Stafford, even when the offense was banged up, Matthew Stafford has been leading this team into success. I got to give credit to the Rams where it's due. Rams are certainly a much better team than the Giants. The 4.5 scares me a little bit, but I am confident that the Rams are definitely going to win, but I am going to be confident in laying the 4.5 on LA.
Yeah, this number's actually been coming down. When I put it out earlier in the day, it was at 6. It's now come down to 4.5. Now that may have been because of the announcement that Tyrod Taylor is starting.
I think that's why.
And I tell you what, though, I mean, I understand why they're going to Tyrod Taylor, but let's be honest, Tyrod Taylor has not been good this year with the Giants, and that is why I'm absolutely taking the Rams to win and cover this game. First off, they look like a very dangerous team right now, the Rams. If they get in, look out. The Giants have offensive issues. I think the defense may be able to keep them in this game. The blitz, which we know Wake Martindale loves to do, could slow down Matt Stafford, but they have too many weapons with Kyron Williams, Puka Nacua, Cooper Kupp, and others that I think the Giants are going to have a tough time. And they're not getting a Tyrod Taylor boost. I know that what the line is telling you that they're getting that boost, but let's be honest, he has not been good this year. He was not good against the Bills. He was awful against the Jets. He did not play well when he went in against the Eagles. So, I mean, I get why they want to go to him, but I also don't think at the same time it's going to work. So I'm going to take the Rams here at MetLife Stadium to win, cover, and continue their ways into the playoffs as well. Zan?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like the Rams have a lot to play for. Obviously, the Giants were eliminated from postseason contention a week ago, even though it really didn't seem like anybody thought that they could make a miracle run. I think that this Rams team is firing on all cylinders. If the 49ers weren't as good as they are, you could argue that the Rams would have contended for the NFC West way earlier in the season. That's obviously not happening now. And I think this is simply a get-right game for the Rams before their schedule is going to get even tougher going into the postseason. So, the Rams to win comfortably by about 9 or so. Give me a 32-23 final score over the Giants. I think the Rams scored a late touchdown to seal the deal, and I think that Stafford plays well, and I actually think that Cooper Kupp is a 2-touchdown performance in a break. Okay, I think he's really well. It's going to be it's going to be 8 receptions for 175 yards, somewhere in that ballpark. He's about to go off. That's what I think.
Nick, what about you?
Okay, so the Giants played. I'm going to admit it. The Giants actually in the second half played good football once they put Tyrod in. But I think Tommy DeVito is finally showing his true colors, that he's not going to be a starter in this league, which we all knew. Yeah. But the Eagles kind of played down to the Giants last week. Can we admit that a little bit? Like, they really could have blown the Giants out of the water, and they didn't do it, which I was
we'll talk about the Eagles coming up within the next game, but I think even with the win over the Giants, there's a lot of concern about.
Oh yeah, that's not even a question. They were on a 3-game losing streak coming into that game, but this is my lock of the week. I'm taking the Rams minus 4.5. I think this is the easiest with all the other lines left being double digit. This is probably the most value you will get out of a lock. The Rams, like Johnny said, are playing good football right now. Matthew Stafford, when he's on point, cannot lose. And when he's consistent, he's hitting all his passes. I just don't think the Giants are going to put up enough offense. So I'm taking them out.
Nick and I actually totally agree on that, which is very rare when it comes to the Giants. Paul, what about you?
Yeah, no, I agree with Nick here. I'm taking the Rams at minus 4.5, and I'm taking that as my lock for the week. I think that the Rams have just been playing a lot better recently. The Giants are kind of mailing it in now at this point of the season. Goal is to try to get a top pick. I mean, I don't think that they're going to want to even win this game. Tyrod Taylor has not been great this season. Tommy DeVito got benched. It's it's been a disaster of a year. So hopefully they can get as high of a pick as they possibly can. But I think the Rams are a good team. So I like them. I'm going to take this as my lock.
I think the only reason I can think of why they went to Tyrod Taylor over Tommy DeVito here is because they think maybe Tyrod might be a little bit more mobile, where we're facing Aaron Donald coming up against him. He might be able to escape, have a better chance of escaping. That could be my only thought about it. But
by the way, they're projected, I think, 5th overall pick as of right now, I think is where they are. So they really need to lose.
Well,
you guys know what we talk about. We're tanking in players. The players are not going out there to lose.
That's
no,
the thing.
Of course,
yeah.
Of course not. Of course not.
Go ask the Eagles. Go ask the Eagles about that.
Well, okay. Well, that 2020 game, that was a weird thing.
By the way, Ben and Nick D are also taking the Rams, and Nick D is going to agree with Morgasen and Paul. He's putting his lock as well on the Rams. So we'll have 3 guys here at MetLife bench locking the Rams. All right, speaking of the Eagles, we got Joe Davis, Darryl Johnston, and Pam Oliver on the NFL on Fox as the Arizona Cardinals head to Philadelphia to take on those Philadelphia Eagles. The Eagles an 11-point favorite. So, I said last week it was the get-right game for Philadelphia. I think we're going to try that again here. I'm going to take the Eagles and lay the 11 points here because I understand they haven't looked crisp all season. But the Cardinals are playing consecutive road games here, and they had issues stopping the Chicago offense last week. Now, the one thing that I have concern of when saying all that is that Cardinals head coach Jonathan Gannon came from Philadelphia, where he was defensive coordinator, so he knows them well. But I don't think that matters here. I'm going to still lay the 11 points with Philadelphia at home to eventually get it right, because really right now it's now or never for them. So that's why I'm going to say that. Zan, go ahead. Oh, wait, we do have a scenario here, Tom. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I'm a little off my game there. We do have a scenario. Simply put, a Philly win and a Dallas loss or tie, or a Philly tie and a Dallas loss. Philly wraps up the NFC East.
Okay.
There we go. Zan, what do you think?
Yes, with that being said, you're the Battle of the Birds. The Cardinals at this point are just in a horrible state, and as Johnny alluded to, the Eagles attempted to make the Giants game their game. They nearly did, but at the same time they almost didn't because they almost blew a big lead. But nonetheless, I mean, this is an Eagles team that has to figure it out. I mean, they've looked kind of sluggish the last month of the year. We're playing at home. They're just going to favor them. It's close to a new year, or they know that they could potentially have the NFC East in their back pocket. This 11 points to me is easy. The Cardinals have nothing to play for, and even with the Jonathan Gannon connection, it's not going to be enough. So give me the Eagles, and when it hurts to route the Arizona Cardinals, it's going to be something to me like a 34-13 type of game. I think this is a comfortable, easy win for the Eagles, and if they don't win in the NFC East this week, in my opinion, it's definitely going to be in Week 18 because I think it's going to be a tougher road for Dallas. So give me the Eagles to cover and win.
Nick, what about you?
Now, I would just be careful because some of the stuff in the press conferences Jalen Hurts has said the past couple of weeks should be concerning, that they were not playing up to par or up to effort is, I think, the words that Jalen Hurts used in the press conference, which kind of concerned me. But I don't know. Like you said, is Jonathan Gannon a factor as a defensive coordinator? I don't know. That a lot of times these teams change defensive schemes now every other game because coaches are moving all the time. So I don't know if that 100% plays a factor. The Cardinals are pretty much closing up shop. They're pretty much trying to decide if they're going to get a top 3 pick. But the Eagles are a concern too. And that's what I would be worried about here. I'm going to take the Cardinals plus 11. I think the Eagles win. I think the line is too big because I just think the Eagles are in stumble mode. Even though they beat the Giants, I told this to Tom after the game. That game means absolutely nothing to the Eagles whatsoever. Beating the Giants means nothing. And having the Giants again does not help them get right again down the stretch.
Well, Nick, I'd argue with how worse the Cardinals are than the Giants. The same thing applies here.
True, but I don't know. The Eagles are concerning, and they were not playing well at home the past couple of weeks either. So I'm going to take the Cardinals plus 11.
Paul?
Yeah, this is a tough one just because 11's a big number and especially with what the Eagles showed against the Giants last week and how they were on a losing streak going into that game. They've definitely been falling a bit. They've been playing down to competition. And you almost think that going up against Jonathan Gannon for the first time since he left the Eagles, that this can almost scream like a close game. You can kind of see that script kind of being written. And in that sense, I'm going to go with the Cardinals at plus 11 as well. I think that the Eagles win. I think the Eagles probably still win by a touchdown, but 11 is just a pretty steep number in my opinion. So I'm going to take the Cardinals getting plus 11.
And Tom,
I've been going back and forth about this game, and it's not even because I think that the Cardinals are going to go out of nowhere to pull off the upset like the Giants nearly did. I just think it's a matter of, quite frank, 3-game losing streak, and then you break it with a win over the Giants, but you made it so close at home. This is a concern, fellas. Right now, like, even if the Eagles win the division and force the Cowboys into a wild card spot, I could still see Dallas as being the stronger team. Like, the only reason Dallas isn't in a more competitive spot, I mean, it is competitive, but like I said, the Eagles got an easy end of the year schedule with 2 Giants games and the Cardinals. Meanwhile, Dallas has Miami, has Detroit. They're going to end with the Commanders, but still, you talk about entering the playoffs with momentum and that importance, Nick. We talked about this actually, I think it was a couple of years ago. I forget which Super Bowl, about the importance of playing playoff caliber, Super Bowl caliber teams as compared to having one of the easiest schedules in the NFL. So that being said, the Eagles are definitely going to win, but it's going to be really close. I'll take the plus 11 with the Cardinals. I'll agree with Nick and Paul. And I'll say this, Philadelphia, for the sake of yourself, you better prove me wrong. Because if you can't cover the spread against a team like Arizona or a team like the Giants, we could very well see, guys, the Eagles being even with a division title win, the Eagles could end up being a one and done team in the playoffs.
Certainly possible. We'll find out. So 3 guys on top taking the points. Zan and I will take the Eagles. Nick D takes the Eagles. And Ben Kruse will put his bench lock on the Eagles in this game. So something to watch here down in Philadelphia. Nick, it's Kevin Burkhardt, Greg Olsen, Aaron Andrews, and Tom Rinaldi on Fox as Derek Carr and the New Orleans Saints head to Raymond James, face Baker Mayfield and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Bucs are a 2.5-point favorite. And yes, we have a playoff scenario here. Tom, go ahead.
All right, here we go. Simply put, a Tampa win or a Tampa Bay tie and an Atlanta loss, and the Bucs have the NFC South.
Holy crap, we still have 3 more after this too.
That's so crazy.
Man, it's crazy. That's why I'm glad we didn't do the playoff machine this week, because man, you would be exhausted doing that. Might still happen next week.
Yeah,
Big NFC. What's that, Tom?
I was gonna say next week's gonna be exhausting when I have to do all the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. So stay tuned for that. All right, Nick, big NFC South game here. What do we got?
By the way, you need that guy who does the things on Football Night in America, the political guy.
Steve Connect, he's the best.
He's one of my favorites, by the way.
I need him and Vanna White for this.
Yes.
But I like the Bucs. By the way, the Bucs, we're not talking about the Bucs enough. The Bucs are playing good football. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if he wins a division, he gets an incentive on top of the contract, right?
Well, funny that you say that, Nick. Apparently Tampa has been so impressed by Baker this season, the fact that they're about to win the division, even after the loss of Brady, that they're already talking about a potential contract extension before Baker hits free agency.
How can you not? The guy has been playing, I'm not going to say amazing, but like almost shockingly good in a lot of ways. The Saints, I don't know what to expect. This is simple. Bucs cover. I don't think this is a question.
Paul?
Yeah, I honestly completely agree. And I was considering using this as my lock as well.
I was too. Yeah.
I just think that the Saints have just not been that good at all this year. And the Bucs have been playing great. I mean, they still have a good defense. Baker has been a fantastic plug and play quarterback for them. And he might be becoming their future quarterback now after this season. So I like what I've seen from the Bucs. I think they could also be a little bit of a sneaky team depending on who they play first round of the playoffs too, as the 4 seed. If they get matched up against the Cowboys, they're probably not winning that. But they do have a good little team going over there.
He's going to pick the Bucs as well. Paul, Tom, what do you have?
You know what? Actually, funny that you say that, Paul. I mean, if Dallas rips the division away from Philadelphia and Philadelphia's forced to 5, right now, considering momentum of those two teams, that would be a matchup where I could see the Buccaneers winning and making Philadelphia the one and done.
Absolutely. That would be a very, very interesting game. That could be one that a lot of people are looking at as a potential as one of the biggest upsets in the first round of the playoffs, for sure. If that ends up being the case. I
can certainly see it. I mean, granted, like I said, Philadelphia has an easier road to the division title, but regardless, you get my point. But yeah, I'm not going to waste much time, Els. You guys know my thoughts on the Saints. We're praising Baker and the Bucs, singing their praises right now. This is an easy take the money.
Saints are always a tough team to figure out, though, because when we think we put them down, they come back and rise up, and they've got extra time going into this one. But I'm going to take the Bucs because they're laying less than a field goal here, and I think that's why even it's a 3-point game. I think Baker Mayfield and the Bucs will win the division here on this game. But they've had trouble with the Saints in recent history at home, but I don't think the Saints are going to turn it around in this one. That's why I'm going to lay the 2.5 of the Bucs here to win this game and win the NFC South. And Zan, what about you?
Yeah, this one's relatively easy for me. I love the way Baker Mayfield's been playing, and as you guys have kind of alluded to, you don't know what Saints team you're going to get, and they're going on the road. This is going to be a tough environment at Raymond James. To me, this is pretty easy, and the Bucs are going to move one step closer if not win the South this week. So give me the Bucs to cover the 2.5 and win the game outright. Probably will end up being either a 7 to 10-point win. I don't see this coming down to a last-second field goal or anything, but playing the NFC South almost every single game is a crapshoot. But with that being said, give me the Bucs to cover and win.
Ben will also take the Bucs, but Nick D is rolling with the Saints here. We know how high he is on the Saints, so that's what makes me a little bit nervous now about this one. Well, all right, Zan, we ended with you there. Let's go to you here at FedEx Field. Adam Amin, Mark Schlereth, and Christina Pink on Fox as Brock Purdy and the San Francisco 49ers take on Jacoby Brissett and the Washington Commanders, and the 49ers are a 13-point road favorite here.
Yeah, this to me screams like Vegas really wants you to take the other side considering how many points the 49ers are favored by. But
hold on. Sorry, Stan. I need to interrupt. We have a very big scenario here.
Okay.
Very big. Okay. A San Francisco win, a Detroit loss, and if somehow Arizona can pull it off against Philadelphia, then the road to the NFC, to the Super Bowl in the NFC will go through San Francisco, and they will lock up the number 1 seed. If one of those three things doesn't happen, it all comes down to Week 18.
All right. So either way, the 49ers are still in play for the number 1 overall seed in the NFC through the final 2 weeks. That is good to hear. Nonetheless, though, the 49ers are simply the better team. The Commanders really have nothing to play for. It seems like Ron Rivera's on his way out, and they're going to the emergency quarterback well, if you will, and making Jacoby Brissett start. And I think this is just going to be an awful game. The 49ers cover the 13 easily. I think that Jacoby Brissett gives up 5 sacks, and I think that Christian McCaffrey scores twice, and the 49ers win in blowout fashion, 45-14. This will be an easy win for the NFC as champs, and this will be a get right, I'm pissed off kind of game for the 49ers, considering that they probably felt like they were the better team than the Ravens, and they simply just played down. That's all that happened in 4 turnovers. That's what's going to kill you. So with that said, give me the 49ers to win and cover easily. So
yeah, I think the scenarios here, the Commanders losing to the Jets last week was not a good loss. The Niners are angry after losing to the Ravens last week, and not just losing, but getting blown out in a massive scenario. I think this is a get right game, get angry game for the Niners I can't believe I'm saying this, Tom, but I'm taking a cover at minus 13.
Oh, there we go. Paul?
Yeah, I actually love this number at minus 13. I don't even think it's too big. This is a get-right game for the 49ers. Commanders have completely mailed it in. Ron Rivera's on his way out. Jacoby Brissett is going to come in at QB. It doesn't matter. The game's in Washington. I think the Niners are going to blow this game open, and I would easily take them at minus 13.
Tom?
Well, let me ask this, guys. Are any of you concerned considering that Brock Purdy got benched in the middle of last week's game?
No.
I don't think he got benched. I think it was just a blowout, and there was no need to keep him in the game anymore. I think that's what happened.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm going to go on that theory as well. I'm going to go on the theory of they need to get angry, and they are going to come out and perform so much better. You guys know my thoughts about the Commanders. So, yeah, as much as I said what I said before, like Morgasen about double-digit lines, this one of the best teams in the NFL still, like the 49ers, I'm still going to lay the points down on them.
Zain, you said it earlier. This is a line that maybe is begging you to take the Commanders. So you know what
is this your reverse scenario, Johnny, where you would say it's too good to be true?
Right. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take the Niners.
Yeah, that's what I just said.
There's not much to think about this. I mean, guys, this is literally the perfect opponent for the 49ers to take out their frustrations on. I mean,
it is for sure.
Their defensive line is going to come up big against this bad Commanders offensive line. Yeah, Jacoby Brissett's in there. The Commanders will get a boost. They'll score 15 points. The problem is they're going to give 35. 35-15. The 49ers win and cover. And yes, we'll give the Commanders 15 because they'll score 2 touchdowns and then they'll go for 2 because of the analytics that the NFL. So,
can I just give one fun fact with the Niners? I don't know if you guys saw it on DraftKings. Someone placed a $5 bet for a plus 900,000 odds, and they needed McCaffrey to score a touchdown in that game to win. And they did. They won $490,000 on a $5 bet.
God,
just think about that.
So, real quick, the only difference in our picks is that Ben Kruse is going to take the plus 13 with Washington.
Wow.
He'll take the Niners win, but he is going to grab the points there. Nick D is taking the 49ers, laying the 13. So we're all in agreement with the Niners winning. Ben's going to be the lone wolf, though, taking the Commanders.
Now, Johnny, just to clarify, are your garbage time 15 points going to come at the worst possible time as 4 minutes in the fourth quarter, or is it going to be earlier? Or is it going to be earlier in the game?
Early fourth quarter. That's what it'll be. All right, let's go here. Let's go to Lumen Field. An interesting matchup here. By the way, we got a playoff scenario in this one, Tom. It is in fact
simple one.
Right? I'll go first, but I'll let you give the scenario. Kenny Albert, Jonathan Vilma, Shannon Spake special on Fox as Mason Rudolph and the Pittsburgh Steelers take on Geno Smith and the Seattle Seahawks, and the Seahawks are a 3.5-point favorite.
Very simple. Seattle has to win, but to clinch a playoff berth, they actually have to hope for the Green Bay Minnesota tie.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think the Seahawks are going to win this game, but I cannot take them covering this number because they're an inconsistent team, and the Steelers are an inconsistent team. When I have 2 inconsistent teams, I cannot take a team winning and covering. And given how explosive Pittsburgh's downfield passing offense was with Rudolph starting, I am going to take the Steelers to cover here. And let's also remember this. The Seahawks combined margin of victory in its last 4 wins, 13 points.
Wow.
So that's why I'm going to take the Steelers plus 3.5. Zain?
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, I love this game in the late window. I think this is the most underrated game on the entire week 17 schedule, and this is going to be my one upset special of the week. This is the biggest game of the season for the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is the game that's going to propel them one step closer to an unexpected playoff. Or I said it, I think at Pittsburgh somehow sneaks into those 2 AFC wildcard spots and gets in and give me the Steelers to cover this game and win the game in overtime over Seattle to put a dent in Seattle's very, very, very likely postseason hopes. I think that Mason Rudolph and George Pickens come up big, and I actually think that Jalen Warren scores a touchdown in this game too. So give me the Steelers to win and cover and pull off the biggest upset of the entire Week 17 slate.
Wow, nice one there, Zan. I like your thinking. Nick, what about you?
Wow. Wasn't there reports that Pickens was quitting on the team? Wasn't that a scenario that was being thrown out there?
And then he rants off a 78-yard or whatever it was touchdown last week.
Yeah, he destroyed. They destroyed those Bengals last week. That was crazy. Well, what
I
about
don't like. I don't like the Steelers at all, just because of the quarterback scenario. Now they're saying, was it Mason Rudolph's going to start the rest of the?
Well, he's
the
starting
games.
this week.
So I don't know. I mean, not a fan, but I'm not a fan of Geno either. Is Geno starting or no? Do we know that?
Yes.
All right. If Geno starts, I think they win this game. I'm not saying it's going to be a fantastic game. I think it's going to be a really ugly game, and I think they win. What do we have? 3.5. I think they win by 4. I think they barely cover and they win. I just don't like the way the Steelers are playing good offensively from every other scenario except the quarterback position. So I'm going to take the Seahawks to barely cover.
Paul, what do you think here?
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Steelers at plus 3.5. But I'm going to say that the Seahawks do win. I'm going to say it's a really close game as well. This is kind of an interesting week. This is kind of an interesting game for both teams. I mean, both teams are strongly in it. The Steelers are a win away from guaranteeing another above 500 season for Mike Tomlin as well. So that's a little perk that could keep them going. I mean, they're still obviously in the playoff race too. They're like sitting at number 9 right now in the hunt. But I'm going to say that the Seahawks pull it out in a very close one, and they don't cover the 3.5. I'm going to say that the Steelers are plus 3.5.
Tom,
wouldn't it be funny if they lost this week? If Pittsburgh lost this week, won next week, and missed the playoffs in a typical 9-8 winning record, but missing the playoffs kind of year for Pittsburgh again.
I could see that happening too.
What happened?
Probably will.
I could see that happening too.
It would be so Pittsburgh, so Tomlin for that to happen.
He hasn't had a losing record, by the way, since he's been the head coach of the Steelers either.
Yeah.
Yep. But that said, I give all the credit in the world to the Steelers defense, but we've seen the Seahawks offense deliver with Geno Smith at the helm, even with Drew Lock at the helm. Remember when Drew Lock was starting that game and they ended up beating the Eagles? Yeah. Well, that's already again more concerned about the Eagles, but look, the inconsistencies, the moments that they show, moments that they don't show for both of the units that I just mentioned. Yeah, I'm gonna hop aboard the Johnny and Paul train. I'm going thumbs middle on this one. Seahawks to win, but I'm gonna take the Steelers plus 3.5 in a close competitive game.
So that means Nick Morgasen's going to be the lone wolf. Ben Kruse has the Steelers outright winning in an upset special, and Nick D also is taking the Steelers plus the 3.5 there at Lumen Field. All right, this next game is not pretty for a matchup, but it's pretty because we might have one of the more entertaining Broncos country let's ride moments, especially given the news of the past few days with one Russell Wilson. So, I mean, let's go to it. Oh my gosh.
Broncos country, Broncos country, Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, Broncos country, Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, Broncos country, Broncos country, let's ride. Broncos country, Broncos country, Broncos country, let's ride.
It's so good. It's perfect.
Wow.
It's perfect. The timing of all this could not have been any better.
Unbelievable.
Oh my gosh.
Okay, I want to give some full explanation for this because this is how crazy of a day it's been.
Yeah,
That was
this
the
is
third
actually
edit
more
I
important
made
than
of
the actual
that
game
video.
itself.
That was the third edit I made of that video. The first one was just going to say, you blew it because they lost to New England. The second one, what was the second? Oh, you're benched. And then I had to change it right before we came on the air to record to you're getting cut.
Well,
Happy
The
New
reason
Year.
for that,
just for scenario's sake, just what he's referring to is Diana Rossini is now reporting that Russell Wilson will be cut before March 2024 to avoid the cap hell it's going to put them under.
yeah. So here is basically the full scenario of what's going on here. I know Rossini's report mentioning the cut, but here's the full thing from Schultz about the
Jordan
financials.
Schultz.
Jordan
Schultz of Bleacher
Schultz
Report. The
too.
whole. Okay, so Russell Wilson's benching is financial related, has been in the works for weeks. The Broncos approached Wilson 2 days after their October 29th upset over the Chiefs and told him he would be made inactive for the rest of the season if he did not adjust his contract and defer the injury guarantee trigger date that he has for 2025. Wilson has $37 million in injury guarantees for 25 that will become guaranteed no matter what on the 5th day of the 2024 league year in March. At the time, Wilson was coming off a 3-touchdown game in the win over the Chiefs and was starting to experience the winning streak. And basically, the threat kind of shocked him. The two sides got into a major dispute. And then, as I mentioned, the worst kind of thing in that scenario kind of happens. And the Broncos go on a winning streak and a late playoff push. The issue remained. There was all these negotiations between the Broncos, the team, the Broncos, Wilson's camp, the NFLPA, and I'm quoting Schultz here, another unknown party were involved in negotiations that ended with no change in Wilson's contract. It all comes crashing down today. Now, that being said, I actually put a bookmark on this on our ETB Sports account. There is actually somebody, it's Josina Anderson, who talked to Sean Payton and basically said that it had nothing. Sean Payton is claiming it had nothing to do with financials and is purely a football decision as a means of sparking the offense.
Hold on.
Why the fuck you lying?
Yeah.
Why you always lying? Oh my God. Stop you fucking lying.
Reading a little bit of Josina's report, Coach Payton has been vocal about his concern for the offense in recent weeks. The team is 1-3 in the last 4 games, and their offense is ranked in the bottom tier in that span in several categories, including 25th in total offense.
You really expect me to believe that?
You do realize that Russell
Jarrett Stidham is the backup quarterback? Yeah.
Russell Wilson is the 7th rated passer in the NFL this season. Just to put that out there. So, based on all that, Tom, we head to Empower Field at Mile High. The game itself doesn't really mean anything, but it's a Tom McCarthy, James Lofton, Jay Feely, Tiffany Blackman special on CBS. It's Eason Stick and the Chargers and Jarrett Stidham and the Broncos a 3.5-point favorite. Real quick, what do you think here?
What a matchup.
Yeah, this is incredible. Incredibly bad. Listen, even with Jarrett Stidham now at the helm, I trust Denver and the push that they've been going on more than I trust the Chargers and the downhill that they've been going on. So I don't care about this game. I'm just going to take the money on Denver. Broncos country, let's ride. Johnny, next week could be the last Broncos country let's ride ever.
Yeah, and it may not mean as much if Russell Wilson's going to be no longer the starter. By the way, he should be inactive. There's no reason he shouldn't be on the roster if they're going to be
I believe he is going to be placed on the inactive list.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like with a situation with Derek Carr. I know a little bit different, but kind of in the regards with Carr. First of all, it's tricky because it's hard to say how Stidham is going to play, but I would imagine if you're the Broncos here, you should be running the ball a lot here, especially against the Charger defense that has a tough time stopping the run. Funny thing is, though, there's no pressure on the Chargers at all in this one, but they still just lack so much that I think the only play here is going to have to be Denver laying the 3.5. So I agree with you, Tom. I want to go the other way, but it's just I'm not comfortable taking Eason Stick. I know he played better last week, but now he goes outdoors to Empower Field a Mile High. I'll still lay the money with the Broncos there at home. Dan?
Yeah, I mean, this is just an awful game all around, either which way you look at it. Even with Stidham, though, I will take Denver minus 3.5. The Chargers have nothing to play for. They're already moving on to next season and their future and how they're going to rebuild around which would be a healthy Justin Herbert going into 2024. So given all of the Chargers issues in the West, give me the Broncos to win. Their playoff hopes maybe be dead, but they could at least pick up another division win before the season ends. And it should be a walk in the park. Although we all said that about Denver last week, and they crapped the bet against New England. So honestly, given how crazy the NFL is, anything is possible. But I like Denver here in this spot to and then cover probably by about 6 or 7. I would say If Denver can win by a touchdown, they should be happy about that.
Nick?
I'm literally just going to say it. Stidham versus Stick. That's literally what they should post up on the broadcast when they promote this. This is a terrible game. What I was going to do before quickly is I was going to say that whole thing was Russell Wilson. You should be hearing this sound going off. Because that's literally what that whole situation is. Broncos easy cover. Chargers have nothing to play for. What was that scenario you said, Tom, if the Broncos won the last two?
I was going to say, so Zan, technically they're not completely dead yet, especially given the way
I
Kansas City has played.
I'll take it.
If Kansas City loses out and Denver wins out, Denver wins the AFC.
Would you put it past the Chiefs to lose, though?
I mean, they've got the Bengals this week and the Chargers, I think, next week. So, I mean,
you never know.
No, I can't say that's completely
all right.
out.
I'm sorry I sparked the debate. Take the money.
Paul, real quick with this one. What do you got? And then we'll go to your game.
Yeah, I'm actually going to I'm going to differ from everybody. I'm going to go with the Chargers winning this game.
Nice.
I think that there's a possibility that all this craziness kind of, drags a shadow over the team. Jarrett Stidham comes in, maybe isn't as sharp as before. Maybe some of the guys are riding with Russell Wilson, get furious with the decision. I'm going to say that the Chargers win this game. I think that it could pretty much go either way. I think this is one of those games that I could easily see either team winning. But I'll take the Chargers plus 3.5.
Okay, I'm gonna close this out. Just I need to ask. I'll open it to anybody, but I want to go specifically to the Jets fan over there, because if you remember, Mr. Morgasen, even before the season, before Football Friday started back up, we had a story. Our first broad entry was when Sean Payton openly criticized Nathaniel Hackett and said, all those terrible, nasty things. The Broncos are certainly going to have a better record than the Jets this season. But given those comments and now given the news about what's going on with Russell Wilson, despite the stats that you said, is this still a case of open mouth, insert foot? And if the Denver doesn't make the playoffs, and especially given this scenario now with Russell, does Sean Payton still look really bad?
Of course he still looks bad. I think the karma's coming back to bite him now, because that's what usually happens in this sport. Sean Payton, I think, needs to shut his mouth, play the game, figure out his team. Now they're talking about cutting Russell Wilson and losing all of next year to reset themselves in the draft.
Yeah. And potentially potentially selecting somebody like Bo Nix or something to take.
Yeah, so this is a severe case of open mouth, insert foot.
Well, Bo Nix, though, is might be coming out this year, though.
I just meant in general, they're going to retool for 2025, whatever that draft is.
I'll tell you right now, there's not many quarterbacks in next year's draft. I'll tell you that right now.
No, there isn't.
We'll see. What a mess there. And I think we know what our what Tom and Nick's lead story is going to be on the 2024 season premiere of Empty the Bench next week.
Oh God!
All right, Paul, we ended with you there. Let's start with you here. Jim Nantz, Tony Romo, Tracy Wolfson special on CBS as Jake Browning and the Bengals take on Patrick Mahomes and your Chiefs at Arrowhead, and the Chiefs are a touchdown favorite.
Last playoff scenario.
Yes, one more.
Okay, Chiefs win, they're in with the AFC West title. If they do not win, they can still win, get the playoff berth and the division if the Raiders and Broncos both lose.
Yeah. So based on that, Paul, where are we going?
This is a tough one. I mean, we saw the last couple of weeks. It's been a disaster, especially last week as well. The entire offense has been completely out of flux. The wide receiver core has been this talk of Kansas City for the entire season, but the offensive line was terrible this past week as well. The tackles couldn't hold anybody back. Mahomes was running for his life as well. Mahomes' passing decisions too have not been great, partially because he's trying to squeeze the ball in any place possible to try to get anything going, since nobody can run their routes correctly. That's one of the most frustrating things about this Chiefs losing streak. I think the Chiefs win this game, but for the first time, I'm not taking the Chiefs line. I'm going to take the Bengals at +7, because I'm going to say that they've been playing down to their competition the entire season. This game could easily be within one touchdown. The Chiefs should 100% win this game, but it's probably going to be closer to 7 points, in my opinion. So I'm going to take Bengals at +7 and the Chiefs to end up winning.
Interesting. All right, Tom, what about you here?
Yeah, logic would dictate to me that Chiefs win this game, especially how bad the Bengals looked last week against Pittsburgh. But the way that Kansas City played against Las Vegas, now I know the Raiders occasionally will have the Chiefs number because divisional play, and just because that's how it is. It always seems to be Andy Reid's team struggling against the Raiders. But the way they lost last week was really, really bad. It sparks in me a lot of questions. And I said, did I not say, Nick, in our little chat, that because of that, I'm sorry. No. I saying it's panic time. It's smash that panic button.
Oh, right.
Smash it hard, because
Yes.
I the way that he's I get it. They can't run their routes. I get it that for whatever reason, the receivers just cannot hold on to the ball. They can't make any of these great catches. But, I mean, Patrick Mahomes is playing at a level. That sparks a lot of questions. It's concerning how much there's been a regression with this Chiefs team, especially because, remember all the crap we talked last year about, the Chiefs are going to suffer without Tyreek Hill, and they end up winning the Super Bowl. They end up looking like they didn't lose a step. And now all of a sudden here, it goes down. So, but you know what? As bad as the Bengals looked, there was that divisional aspect. And just because of how bad the Chiefs is, listen, I pressed that button. I'm going to take the Chiefs to win. I'm going to lay the +7 down on Cincinnati. I'm really concerned about this Kansas City team, and they've got to do something to right the ship if they want people to believe in them again, especially, when you got teams like Baltimore, Miami, and a surging Buffalo team all around you. And even Cleveland. Did I not say a week or 2 weeks ago, Nick? I think it stays the same here. I might want to stay with a Cleveland pick over Kansas City if they meet in the playoffs right now.
It's not a bad debate.
I'm banking on that Lion Brown Super Bowl, by the way. That would be awesome. Yeah, I disagree, guys. In fact, I'm gonna go bold here. This is gonna be my lock of the week, and I'm taking the Chiefs laying the 7 points. And I think actually this is a get right spot for Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, because if you look at the Bengals, Jake Browning regressed last week, and I think that's going to continue, especially if Jamar Chase is going to be out in this one. And everything's been about the Chiefs' offense with Mahomes and Travis Kelce and stuff. But let's also remember the Chiefs' defense has given up the second fewest yards per game. They did not surrender an offensive touchdown against Vegas on Christmas Day, while the Bengals have surrendered the 5th worst amount of passing yards per game this season. So I think this is a get-right spot for Mahomes. I actually like the under in this game more than anything, but I'm going to put my lock on it. I think the Chiefs win this game by 10, and I think they get back at least for 1 week on the right track. So that's why I will lay the money with the Chiefs and put my lock of the week here in Arrowhead on Sunday. Zan?
Chiefs, this is easy. I just think the Bengals are simply struggling. At this point, they looked awful against Pittsburgh in a game that was a must-win, and I just think sometimes when you're playing a divisional opponent, you'll have a down week, and it seemed like the Raiders were up and ready to play. And even though Kansas City has struggled, this is a game that they absolutely need to end on the right foot, more than likely win the AFC West or bring anything catastrophic. So I'm going to go with you, Johnny, on that same wavelength. I love Kansas City in this spot, and I think that Mahomes is really dominant day, and I actually think if was 3 touchdowns is a prove you wrong type of scenario. So give me Kansas City to win and cover. I'm going to say probably about 30-14. I think this is a dominant win for Kansas City, and we're going to be like, you thought we were done, not so fast. I like the Chiefs here.
All right, I'm very curious to see what Nick's going to say about this game. Nick, go ahead.
Well, pull that sound effect out again. Yeah, so I have the Bengals in a full upset against the Chiefs at home. Yeah, I don't like the way the Chiefs. I don't like the way the Chiefs have been playing. I think there's a lot of turmoil going on in that locker room. Patrick Mahomes is a lunatic on the sideline the past couple of games. Like a complete, absolute lunatic, yelling at teammates up and down the sideline, yelling at referees. A couple games ago, they were going into the media crying and complaining that they didn't get calls when they won a Super Bowl on a call. Okay? Enough doing commercials and then more focusing on the field. Okay? The Bengals win this outright. Bengals win this outright. Not even a question.
Well, Nick, funny that you say that. I mean, we just talked about Baker Mayfield and the way that he's delivered. Ever since those progressive commercials have stopped airing and he stopped doing them and focused in, he's definitely been upping his game, Baker.
Well, enough commercials, Patrick. You're going to lose this game. Bengals outright.
So Ben Kruse is also doing the same thing with Nick. He's also taking the Bengals outright as an upset special. That's his third upset special today. Nick D, though, is going to take the Chiefs minus the 7. So we're on opposite ends there at GEHA Field at Arrowhead Stadium. All right, one more game here in Week 17 on Sunday Night Football on NBC. Tom, a Mike Tirico, Chris Collinsworth, Melissa Stark special as Jordan Love and the Packers take on what looks like Nick Mullins and the Minnesota Vikings, and not a playoff scenario, but an elimination scenario in this game. The Vikings are a 1.5-point favorite.
I mean, let's be honest. The Vikings, for however much crap you guys have given Kirk Cousins, especially when it comes to primetime games, they are suffering without Kirk Cousins. Joshua Dobbs had his run, and I'm going to be really honest with you. The Vikings, I mean, they still have a shot at the playoffs, but at this point, when you are the number, I think, 8 seed at this point, you're playing your rivals, and you've basically dropped to a long shot after losing to the Lions. Let Jaron Hall play. You drafted him. He was playing, and then he got the concussion in his first game, which led to Dobbs being there. Give Hall the chance. At this point, what do you have to lose? That's what I don't get out of Minnesota. Let the kid do his thing. Give him the shot. I just don't get it. Jordan Love has definitely played decently. And the Vikings, I mean, that being said, because I know Nick Mullins played last week, the 4 or 5 interceptions left, but he also had a 400-yard game. And the thing about the Vikings, one of the things that we've been talking about the Vikings is that as much as they've had the offensive woes ever since Kirk, got hurt, which maybe you'll have to give Kirk another contract, or maybe you give Russell the contract now. It's been the defense that's been a problem. They lost a number of key pieces in the last few off seasons, and it's definitely showed in that Minnesota team. This one's a really tight one, especially because the Packers are still fighting and itching for that last playoff spot. But you know what? This might be the last time I'm going to do it this season, so I have to give a little bit of home support. I will take the money on the Vikings at home.
All right. This is the final game of 2023. So I think we have to finish the calendar year out strong. Give me the team with the better quarterback, and that's Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers here to an upset special over the Minnesota Vikings. The Vikings are just 2-5 at home this season. They failed to cover in the past 4 games, and Green Bay's won 6 straight games in December over NFC North opponents. I think that continues here. I think the Packers win this one outright up there in Minnesota. Zan?
I'm with you, Johnny. This is a classic NFC North tilt where it's going to come down to the one quarterback that I trust more than the other, and I trust Jordan Love a lot more than I do Nick Mullins. And trust me, I would be going a totally different direction if Kirk Cousins was healthy, but I think the Packers are peaking at the right time. They might be winning ugly these last few weeks, but the point is that they're winning and they're playing the football that they need to give themselves the best chance to play upward. So I think they win, they cover the spread, and they stay very much alive in the NFC wildcard picture with the Bears coming in Week 18 and what could be the most important game of the season for both teams for 2 entirely different reasons. So with that said, Packers win, Packers cover, and more than likely the Vikings will be out of the NFC playoff picture after Sunday night.
What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I like the Packers here too. The Vikings offense is a little bit of a struggle. Their quarterback situation, Nick Mullins, is either really, really good or really, really bad. There's no in the middle, which is not a good thing. Jordan Love has been a little bit of a mystery on his own, which is kind of a problem. But I just think the Packers are a little bit more consistent as of now, so I'm going to take the Packers outright.
And Paul, what about you? Final pick of 2020 of the 2023 calendar year goes to you.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Packers are going to win outright. Jordan Love, I think, is just a better quarterback. It looks like the Packers should be healthy. I know that that Aaron Jones didn't practice today.
Neither did AJ Dillon.
Neither did AJ Dillon. Oh, that's okay. So that's going to be a big one. But those
also, you're forgetting about what's the Alexander being out with the suspension.
Yeah.
Also,
yeah,
Jair Alexander, the cornerback.
Which all that might explain why the Vikings are the favorite.
Yeah, that definitely explains a lot. I'll still roll with the Packers. I think that Jordan Love may be able to come through, but yeah, I'm going to roll with them to end up winning this game.
Well, let me ask: do you guys think Minnesota should turn to its rookie? Should they go to Jaron Hall at this point?
Yes.
A yes and a no.
Zan says no. I say yes.
Because I think Nick Mullins did enough to keep Minnesota in that game against Detroit last week. The defense just didn't make enough plays because they very easily could have gone up on Detroit by 2 scores early in the third quarter. They just couldn't do it.
What has happened to Josh Dobbs? That's what I want to know.
Third stringer.
No, but I mean they traded a 6th or 7th round pick for him. I know they didn't trade much to get him. They were desperate because of the Cousins injury.
Right, but then he got the 3 interception game.
4.
Yeah, and I mean, he's never been heard of. He's not even been active, let alone been backup or third string. He hasn't even been active in these games.
Right. Well, the one thing that I can say with Mullins, yeah, he had the 4 or 5 interception game on Christmas Eve, but same time, 400 yards. That's still a rare accomplishment in itself.
It's a good point.
Yep. We'll find out. It's an elimination game here to wrap up 2023. All right, let's get to our Wolf Spread plays. If you're just joining us for the first time, so the deal is everybody gets 2,000 fantasy dollars. Everybody's got to make at least $1,500 worth of wagers, and whoever profits the most out of their $2,000 bankroll wins. Nick Morgasen has the highest.
Well, out of all of us, technically, yes.
Yeah, out of all of us, he has the highest profit because he lost the least amount last week, and I lost almost half my profit for the year last week. We'll try and rebound coming up.
But who won last week?
Yes, there you go, Tom. Are you out of the hole? Jeopardy reference. Are you out of the red? Are you out of the hole?
I do not believe I am out of the hole. No. That 1 week where I lost every single one of my $2,000 hurts.
Yeah, really. All right, I'll go first with the picks. I have the Browns -7.5. I have the Niners -13. I have the Bills -13. I have the Eagles -10.5. The Ravens -3.5. And the Vikings -2.
All right, so you are still technically a little bit in the whole time, but maybe a daily double or something we can get you out of there. All right, I'll go second here. So I got $1,168 profit. Again, I'm going to the 8 play bet because, well, why not? Some interesting plays for Week 17. I am taking the under in the Lion Cowboy game, 53.5. I think there's going to be a few less points there, so I'll take the under there. I'm taking the Raiders on the money line. By the way, these are all $250 wagers. Raiders on the money line to win outright against the Colts. I'm going to take the Rams laying the 4.5, as much as it pains me to say that, against the Giants. I'm going to take the Bears laying 3 at home to continue their winning ways. The Bucs are laying less than a field goal, so I'll take them -2.5. I will take the over in the Titan-Texan game at 43. I've got the under in the Chief game there against the Bengals on Sunday, 44.5. I think it'll be a little bit of a lower scoring game given the Chiefs' offense, but how offensive woes, but how great their defense has been. And I've got the Packers on the money line. So we go 2 upset plays, couple of spreads, couple of totals, all $250 wagers to try and get back in our winning ways for Week 17. Tom, you can go ahead.
All right, Johnny, like you, I'm doing 8 bets here. I got an 8-legger. All right, so I'm actually going to double dip with 3. So there's 3 teams that I have 2 bets on. I will start with my singles. I have Cleveland with the -7.5, $200 fantasy dollars on that. I have the $250 fantasy dollars on the Bucks money line, which is -145. I have a double bet on the Dallas Cowboys. $200 fantasy dollars on the money line and $200 fantasy dollars on the -6 spread. I have a double bet on the Baltimore Ravens, $250 fantasy dollars on the -3.5 spread, $300 fantasy dollars on the -175 money line. And then my lock of the week, bear down, Chicago Bears. I have $300 fantasy dollars on the -3 spread and another $300 on the -155 money line.
All right, and Zan, you go next.
Sure. So after winning 752 fantasy dollars a couple of weeks ago, last week was a week to forget as I am now back in the red, negative $102 going into this week. So I'm hoping to have a major bounce back week here. So let's go through my plays. Full disclosure, I have bought points on every single pick, so the lines will be a little bit shifted compared to the rest of you. So without further ado, here it is. I like the Browns on Thursday night to cover an alternate line of 5 points, 450 to win 300. I like the Colts in an alternate line. It is one wagering 175 to win 117 over the Las Vegas Raiders. I like the over 45 that's buying 2 points and the number there. The over 45 in the Miami Dolphins against the Ravens, 200 to win 133. I like the Eagles in an alternate. It spread -8.5 over Arizona. That's 250 to win 167. And then I have a double play on the Jacksonville Jaguars Carolina Panthers game. I've got $500 fantasy dollars on the Jacksonville Jaguars money line to beat the Panthers. That's 500 to win 167. And I have an alternate spread. The Jacksonville Jaguars -5, 250 to win 167. And I also have to round out the week the Pittsburgh Steelers to cover an alternate line of +5.5 in Seattle at Lumen Field, 175 to win 113. So those are my plays for Week 17 in the NFL, presented by Wolfsbread.
All right, and who did I miss? Paul.
Yeah, I got a few. I like the under on Carolina Jacksonville under 38. I've also got the under. I'm agreeing with you, Tom. I got the under on Chiefs Bengals at 44.5. I think that's definitely going to be a lower scoring game. I got the Chargers money line at +150 and the Packers money line at +110.
There we go. And those are our Wolfsburg plays. Before we get out of here, Tom, you had a report you wanted to bring up real quick?
Yeah. So, I mean, this was definitely hours ago, but it is something worth mentioning. It is a report coming from an ESPN insider that Mr. Morgasen you're very familiar with by the name of Mike Tannenbaum.
Goody. That's a name I like to hear.
Are any of you familiar with the report that I'm going to be putting out? I guess not. Teams that could be interested in Wilson in 2024. Obviously, I mentioned the Vikings earlier because Cousins' contract expiring, but he didn't say that. He has said 3 teams: Atlanta, New Orleans. This has to be a troll. This has to be a troll by him. The New York Giants.
Well, I can see why the Giants could be in that discussion, but I don't think it's a good.
Danny, but Danny has another year guaranteed.
He's got another year left. Yeah, that's true. I don't.
Why would you regress? Why would you regress and go backwards?
I mean, Danny, there's going to be a lot of questions on Danny. I get it, but why would you give Wilson a big contract when you already got? You have to start Danny next year.
It doesn't make any sense. I kind of see where he's going at. I think Atlanta does make sense, but we'll find out. It's definitely going to be a topic for you guys when you start your new year of ETB next week. Well, again, make sure to catch next week. We're back to our regular Friday time spot of noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, as everybody will be back doing their shows starting next year for the new year. Of course, Tom and Nick and others will be on Saturday at 8 p.m. for the live stream of the Lions and Cowboys, which could be a preview of the NFC playoff picture as well. That's going to come up Saturday at 8 p.m. Of course, make sure to check us out wherever you get your favorite podcasts. If you can't watch us on YouTube, that's whether it's Acast, iHeart, Spotify. We're also check us out on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/ETB Network, where if you like all of our content, please leave us a like. If you're new, hit that subscribe button and make sure you have your notifications set so you know when all of our stuff's going to be coming out. And, of course, etbpodcast.com, our website for more information about this great network of ours and all of our shows. So, For Nick Morgasen, Paul Lombardi, Tom Albano, Zain Bando, and of course, Ben Kruse and Nick DiMartino, I'm Johnny Montalbano. Everybody have a safe, happy, and healthy start to the new year, and we will catch you all again in 2024. Take care.
Take care.